In this session, we will discuss about the introduction to systematics of angiosperm. As I have already talked to you that the taxonomy. What is the taxonomy? Who used the term taxonomy for the first time? There was a worker that is named A.P. de Candolle, Augustine Pyramus de Candolle, in his famous book wrote by A.P. de Candolle, that is the Theorie Élémentaire de la Botanique. In that book, he used the term taxonomy for the first time in 1830. This book was published in Theorie Élémentaire de la Botanique, published in 1813. Taxonomy means it is similar things, especially living things, into groups or types. And if we talk about the aims of the taxonomy, so what are the aims of the taxonomy? It is just to identify the plants, giving the names, affinities, distribution, habit and economic importance. If we are discussing about the economic importance, their affinities, their names, identify the plants. So what was the purpose of the studying the taxonomy? Taxonomy just to aim with the identifying the plants and giving the names to that, and to discover the affinities as well as their economic importance, and also to provide the standardized system for the working with the plant names, either it is of genus or species or families, whatever it is. अच्छा, now ठीक है, okay. So evolutionary relationship, that is the one of the aim of the taxonomic study, to demonstrate the kingdom diversity as well as the evolutionary correction. And the nomenclature is also the aim to for the taxonomy, just to give the name to the plant in the form of the genus and species with the help of the International Code of Nomenclature. So now there is a complete set of rules for the giving the name to the plant. So main aim is to plant diversity, reference system as well as the evolutionary relationship with the nomenclature. So the components that you can say, that the components of the taxonomy is the identification, classification and nomenclature of an organism. Identification. How would you identify the plant? I have already told you when we will discuss about the Bentham and Hooker system of classification, as well as in my introductory lecture. So we have already told you what is the identification, and also we have talked about the identification when we are talking about the International Code of Botanical Nomenclature or International Code of Nomenclature for algae, fungi and plants. So we have already told you about the nomenclature. Nomenclature, how to define the nomenclature? Nomenclature deals with the determination of correct names applied to a plant and the system of assigning the name to a plant on scientific basis is called as nomenclature. How would you to determine the name to a plant? Only on the scientific basis, that is called as the nomenclature, and also preparing the analytical tools and identifies plants through a process of elimination. So just to give the name to the plant only on the scientific basis. And what are the scientific basis? There are certain rules which was framed by the International Code of Nomenclature. They set certain rules how to give name to a plant. That is the main component of the taxonomy. And identification, there are certain morphological features already fed in your mind. So on that basis you would able to identify the things. Suppose there are some articles putting over in this table. So, and that are some edible items, there are some writable items, there are some papers. So, if I said that identify all these three groups of the articles, definitely you would be able to identify. How do you identify? Because there are certain morphological features already feeded in your mind. So, on that basis you would immediately you would apply that characters that already feeded in your mind. Okay, which group is used for the edible purposes, which group is used for the writing purposes, which group is used to as a paper. So, on the basis of their morphological characters, if I said that a dog as well as a lion entered into this studio, what will happen? If I said just you have to identify, immediately you would be able to identify that which one is the lion and which one is the dog, and that immediately you will react just to, if the lion is entering in your studio, you would definitely try to get it out. Otherwise, dog, there is no fear to fly away. But you have identified, you are knowing that the lion is dangerous for you. So, on what basis? That the character already in your mind. So, just after seeing, applying that character, you would be able to identify. Similarly, in the case of the cat and lion, so again you would apply because the characters are already in your mind, that you have a lion will be of bigger size and the cat will be of a smaller size. Both the similarities are there, most of the similarities are there, but the size difference is there. So, immediately after applying the characters, you identified the dog and the cat. And if I said just to classify, so only on the basis of their size you have to put the lion in another group and the cat will be in another group on the basis of the size. Then the nomenclature. Nomenclature will be on the basis of the certain rules that is governed by the International Code of Nomenclature. So, they have given certain rules. So, on that basis you may identify, you may give the name to the plant. And if we talked about the history about the nomenclature, when it was started, idea about the genus as well as the species, then after that the polynomials were come into existence. And polynomials, I have already told you some example, one example of the polynomial nomenclature, that the Althea medraspetana subrutundo folio molai and hirsuto multiplis. So, it was very difficult to remember the polynomial names, and in the same plant, the Althea medraspetana subrutundo folio molai, the same plant, in the binomial is the Seda cardifolia. So, Seda cardifolia is in binomial, and Althea medraspetana subrutundo folio molai is the polynomial. If I said that you have to remember 200 plants, it would not be possible to remember. You may, but there is least possibility to remember the 200 or 100 plants, but in case of the binomial culture, it is very easy to remember. So, that is why the polynomial remove, or the mononomial was also sometimes they would come into existence, but it was not having any authentic rules, so that they were replaced. Then after that the Bohin in 1550, they used the two words with their co-workers. He used the plant name, two names for a plant, about 6,000 names, 6,000 plants they give the name, but he was also lacking the concept of the genus and species. Then the Carolus Linnaeus tried to give certain rules, and he used two words for a plant in species plantarum. In that species plantarum, he used the genus as well as the species. Up to there is a certain rules were given by the Carolus Linnaeus in the Critica Botanica, which was published in 1737, and it was the extension of the Fundamenta Botanica, which was published in 1736. And after that, in 1753, when he published the Species Plantarum, he used the two words for a plant and giving certain rules for naming to the plants. What he said that all the names must be either Greek or in Latin, and it is italicized or it is underlined, whatever. And then the author name must also be added in that. With that, the name of the plant, it is abbreviated form. For example, the Caffeia arabica, and described by Linnaeus. Linnaeus has been written with the abbreviated form, that is the Lin. So this was the certain rules in the binomial. There are two names. If I have already told you that if a name which is forming more than the two words, either it is the specific or it is the generic name, it is forming more than the two words, then these two words must be united with the hyphen. And I have already given you example of the hibiscus rosa sinensis. Hibiscus rosa sinensis. This rosa and sinensis consisting of the two words, but it is united with the hyphen. This one is the hyphen, so it is united with that. Then also the number of the plants increasing day by day. It was the need of the time that there must be certain rules. The botanist or the workers or the researchers who were working on the plant nomenclature or the taxonomy, they face problems to giving the name to the plant, because number of the species were increasing day by day, and the Carolus Linnaeus was thinking about 10,000 plants, but when it becomes more than 3 lakhs plants identified by the workers, then there is a feeling of the time peoples that there must be certain rules for giving the name to the plant. So that's why they arranged International Botanical Congress, and that Congress was held in Paris in 1866. And in that Congress, the responsibility was given to the Alphonse de Candolle. Alphonse de Candolle was the son of the A.P. de Candolle. So he was given the responsibility to frame out the rules of the nomenclature. And he did that. He fulfilled that responsibility and framed the rules, that is the laws de la nomenclature botanique. He compiled, he framed, he worked a lot on framing of the rules of the nomenclature, and framed out and published or compiled in the name of the laws de la nomenclature botanique. And this set of the rules were sent to the 150 different workers, the different countries who were invited to attend the next year Botanical Congress, which was also held at Paris in 1867. And in that Congress, their rules were adopted, and this laws de la nomenclature botanique were based on his father's work, that was the Theorie Elementaire de la Botanique, published in 1813. So in that Congress, it was said that there is some principles, there are some rules, there are some recommendations which were framed in the laws de la nomenclature. So there was 6 principles, and there was rules, provision for modification of the code, rules and recommendations. So all were in the code. They were discussed in the principles. There was the 6 principles in the code. The independence, botanical nomenclature is independent with the zoological nomenclature, and the priority who published the name for the first time, the priority will be given. The name based on the principle of the priority of publication. It was also one of the principles, the uniqueness in each taxonomic group having only one correct name, as I already told you. Then the Latinization or the each taxonomic name will be in Latin, as well as then regardless of the derivation. Why it is in Latin? Because Latin language is self-explanatory. For example, I am giving you one example of that. This is schizo. Schizo octo, schizo to split, Saccharomyces octosporus. It is schizo means to split, sacro sugar, myces fungus, octo 8 sporus spores. It means this name Schizosaccharomyces, he itself explaining about himself that he is saying, I am the sugar, I am a fungus who is having the ability to split the sugar and bearing the 8 spores. So it is self-explanatory. If anybody is knowing the Latin language, then immediately after Schizosaccharomyces or octosporus reading, and he would be able to understand that it is the name of the fungus and this having the ability to split the sugar bearing the 8 spores. So that's why Latin language has been adopted in the nomenclature, giving the name to the plant. Then the retroactive, the rules of the nomenclature are the retroactive, that is one of the principle of the nomenclature. Then there is a certain ranks, there is a type method, the typification we will discuss in the next session, the priority of the publication, the name of the family, and also the recommendations, how the hybrid names were given, how the generic name will be given, how the family name will be given, how the specific name will be given. So that was all about the rules for that nomenclature. So there are certain recommendations. Then if we talked about the classification, so there are, I have already discussed about the types of the classification. There is an artificial system of classification and the natural system of classification and the phylogenetic system of classification. So in artificial system of classification, Theophrastus was the father of the botany, is the father of the botany. He classified the plant on the basis of the herb, shrubs, undershrubs and trees. So in Historia Plantarum, so he was the man who classified the plants on the basis of their habits. Then the John Ray, but he divided the monocot and dicot only on the basis of that character in the Historia Plantarum also. Then the Linnaeus classified the plant system. And the number of the stamens I have already told us, then a monoandria, diandria, triandria, tetrandria, that one stamen, two stamen, three stamen, four stamen, tetrandria, four stamen, pentandria, 5 stamens, so, and the number of the carpels. So on that basis they classify the plants. Then if you talked about the demerits of all these system, artificial, that is the demerit artificial, arbitrary criteria, that is classification based on the random morphological traits. There is no certain rules, the random the people, whatever the people like to select the character, they are independent to select the character. There was no rule, no foundation. So they selected characters and identified them. And also it's lack of the relationship, and no evolutionary insight were also covered in the artificial system of the classification. And this is called as the misclassification. The similar species separated and the unrelated species grouped together. So there was no intention paid on the similarities and the dissimilarities. So on their own choice they selected the character, identified, classified the plant. So that was the major demerits of the artificial system. Then the natural system based on the relative affinities considering all plant characters are dominant before the acceptance of the evolutionary theory. So this artificial natural system was dominant before that. The Michael Adamson rejected artificial system and classified plant into 58 families. The family is des plantes. The family is des plantes in 1763. He rejected the artificial system. Natural system. And then Jesus classified plants in genera Plantarum in 1789. Then Robert Brown distinguished the Angiosperm and Gymnosperm. He was the man who identified the Angiosperm. He different with the Gymnosperm because the Angiosperm they are the flower producing plants and Gymnosperm bearing the spores. Then the A.P. de Candolle up to certain stage he succeeded to give the rules up to some extent. Theoria Elementary de la Botanique written by him 1813. So he divided dicot based on the petals present, absent, free or fused on that basis. So this character was adopted by the A.P. Alphonse de Candolle in their laws nomenclature, laws dealer nomenclature. Then the Bentham and Hooker he wrote the genera Plantarum. Genera Plantarum, influenced by the A.P. de Candolle and Jesus system. So most of both Bentham and Hooker both were the Britishers. So he worked together and written the Genera Plantarum in 7 volumes and published during 63 to 83. Then the phylogenetic system of the classification come into existence. The Engler and Planter was the a man who classified the plants on the basis of their phylogenetic system. Is also denatured and phylogen based on increasing complexities, flower, fruit and seed development. So on that basis he classified the monocot, dicot and gymnosperm, and dicot were divided into archicalamidae and sympetally. So then the gymnosperm, John Hutchinson divided the angiosperm into dicotyledony and monocotyledony, and Hutchinson gave the 24 dicta are the phylogenetic principles. On that basis they are divided. They give the primitive as well as the advanced characters. All the 24 dictas, 24 principles, or you can say the 24 morphological indicators. He wrote families of flowering plants in 1959 and in 2 volumes. The first volume deals with the dicot and the second volume deals with the monocot. So he was the man who give the recent system of classification in 1959. Then the merits of the phylogenetic system. The phylogeny deals with the evolutionary history of all taxa, shows genetic and temporal relationship between the taxa, aims for the stable classification based on the primitive and advanced characters. That is the merit of the phylogenetic system. So this was all about the introduction to the systematic angiosperms, and we will discuss in the next session about the typification as well as the hierarchy of that system.